Your favorite VTuber has an IRL face. Disgusting flesh tuber, I know. But it's true, and you don't have to think about it usually, but when I went to Offkai Expo last week, it smacked me right in the face, pun intended. Hi, my name is Fae, I'm a clown VTuber and game dev, and I'm here to tell you about Offkai Expo 2023. This was the second year of Offkai Expo and the first time that I attended, and with the tagline, a place for online friends to meet, you would think that this is a cool convention to meet your online friends. But the caveat here is that VTubers often hide their faces on purpose for personal reasons, for safety reasons, for NDA reasons, and this offers an additional challenge when you actually want to go to something like Offkai. For me personally, I'm okay with showing my face, and I did on Twitter, but I'm gonna blur it out here because I think it's funnier. But there were some VTubers like Cooksie here who would show her presence with an alpaca little plushie instead. And then on the other side, there was Cinder who was cosplaying as herself, and a lot of people somewhere in between, some of them wearing badges with their actual VTuber username and not hiding it, some of them having different usernames but actually being someone else, etc, etc. I've been to countless anime conventions and a handful of video game conventions now, but Offkai Expo was a dream and my favorite convention by far. Today I'm going to tell you about my experience at Offkai, from the highs of drinking Pecora's plum wine and meeting Professor Lando, to the lows of an impersonator taking advantage of the fact that VTubers don't usually show their faces situation. I'll also give you my personal tips if you'd like to attend an event like this as a creator or as a fan, and how to not be a freaking weirdo. So let's get into it. I actually live in the southeast of the US, so I flew out to the San Francisco area to attend Offkai. I got in a few days early actually, so I was able to sneak over to Fisherman's Wharf. I know, really touristy, but the sea lions make me really happy, okay? The con ran from Friday through Sunday, but on Thursday night, I was already checked into the convention hotel. Now, I wanted to go to Offkai to attend a bunch of VTuber content-related panels, but mostly, not gonna lie, I wanted to see Professor Lando. Professor Lando had one panel on Friday, I believe, and he also had a meet and greet on Saturday. On Thursday night, I was so tired and ready to pass out in the convention hotel when I actually might have spotted Professor Lando in the hotel lobby. I did not approach him. He was with people. The convention had not started, and I'm just a crazy fan. This is my first tip to you if it's not obvious. It's cool to some extent to interact with people that you admire who are famous, but you need to do so when they're in that space of expecting it. I left the man alone. On Friday, the convention started. I attended a few different panels about music and covers because I'm very excited to continue making covers here on YouTube. I was exploring the convention center with a few of my friends that I knew already, and when we wandered into the artist alley, this is when everything changed for me. Again, I've been to a million anime conventions, a handful of video game conventions, and usually the merch that is there interests me a little bit, but VTuber merch and art being the main thing in a space has never been a thing for me. And boy, can I tell you that my wallet suffered. The vast majority of art and merch consisted of HoloLive, HoloStars, Niji Sanji, and independent VTuber talents. There were some Honkai Star Rail things, and some general cute merchandise, art, and bags not really tied to a talent. But it was a very surreal feeling to look around and be like, wow, I've seen this person's merch before. There was also a large number of life-size stands of talents, so obviously a great photo op right there. One thing interesting about Offkai is that they did have a bunch of corporate sponsors in the form of VTuber agencies. These included Phase Connect and Idol, Lucid Multimedia, and V4 Mirai. So on one side of the vendors hall, there was a gigantic Phase Connect section with big screens showing off their talents. And then on the other side of the merch hall, there was Kawa Entertainment alongside Glasses Brigade. And then everything in the middle was artists and other companies too. I will show off all my Offkai merch. That's either in here in the video, I put a timestamp, or I made a separate one. You'll find it. But all in all, the artist alley was fantastic. The artists were super friendly and super talented. I did hear it was a little competitive to get spots in the artist alley, but I am not super familiar with that space. I am very curious to see how sponsorships might go next year. While neither Niji Sanji or HoloLive were gigantic sponsors of the event having booths or anything like that, there were HoloLive ads that were being played in the main room for their upcoming concert, and I'm wondering how companies might end up dueling it out for spaces in the future if, Offkai continues to be successful. But anyway, Friday was Professor Lando's panel, I believe. About an hour before his panel started, I actually spotted him in the lobby again. And at that time, Professor Lando was talking to some fans. You can tell because they had all of this posters over their back and they were asking him to sign something. So my friend and I, we did a little waddle up, a little awkward waddle up, and we did ask Professor Lando for some pictures. Here's a picture of me and Professor Lando. Professor Lando means a lot to me. I did tell him that I had a meet and greet ticket for him already the next day, so I didn't want to hold up a lot of his time, but was wondering if I could grab a photo. And don't hate me, okay, but I'm really glad I did so because the meet and greet, which I'll tell you about later, was good. It was great, actually, but the lighting in that room was pretty shit. So I'm glad we got a photo in the main hall. He did ask for my name because I was stupid enough to not say it. And I said, I'm Fae, I'm a clown VTuber. And he said, aren't we all? And that will stick with me forever. Anyway, I went to the Professor Lando panel. And during the panel, he started talking about how he came to be a guest at Offkai. Most notably, he was thanking the staff for being included and for asking him to have a meet and greet. But he also mentioned kind of feeling bad about the decisions he had made for the meet and greet happening the next day. So the way that the Offkai meet and greets worked was you had to be a registered attendee for Offkai first, which means you had to pay for a badge first. And then you could opt in to a raffle per talent or per guest. Opting in for the raffle was free after you paid for an attendee badge. Basically, you couldn't enter to potentially win a meet and greet ticket if you weren't already attending the convention, which I think is fair. Then the raffle was held, and if you won a raffle for every talent that you won a ticket for, you would have to go in and confirm that ticket by either paying the amount that it is or just clicking a button if it was free. Every talent was able to set the price for their meet and greet ticket. Professor Lando during his panel was making jokes about how the Offkai people asked him, how much do you want your meet and greet tickets to be? And he was like, how much is the average amount? And they're like, oh, $40. And he was like, okay, $40. And then he looked at the site later and was like, wait, everyone else is kind of cheaper. I feel bad now. He said the same thing about accepting gifts too, because he was accepting gifts and other talents weren't. I bring this up because I saw Zentreya talking about the meet and greet raffle and how she thinks it was like in poor taste the way it was run. Whether or not it was in poor taste is up to you to decide personally, but I did see people in the comments getting confused thinking that we paid for raffle tickets and then we like had to still pay for the raffle ticket even if we lost it. And that's not what happened. We paid for a badge and then we got a free ability to potentially win a ticket. And then if you won a ticket slot, you could decide to then keep or actually attain that ticket by paying or doing nothing and not taking it. I did put my name in for a bunch of meet and greet tickets. I entered for Iron Mouse, Punkalopi, Professor Lando, of course, Zen, and Caribou, which was together. I technically won meet and greet tickets for Professor Lando, Punkalopi, as well as Zentreya and Haruka, but I ended up not paying for the last one. So I only went and met Professor Lando and Punkalopi. Punkalopi's meet and greet was free and Professor Lando's was $40. And I'll tell you about the meet and greets shortly. A few of my friends also won meet and greets for Onigiri and Petra. It was really interesting to hear about our different experiences. The Punkalopi meet and greet was on Sunday for me, and it was pretty similar to what I heard of different meet and greets from my friends. There were about 50 tickets won per meet and greet per hour, and you would kind of just go to the meet and greet room and wait in line until it's your turn. And then when it's your turn, you walk in, hand your phone to a staff member, and they would take photos as you're talking to the talent, add a microphone to them on the screen. And there would actually be a physical timer clock just counting down your minute as you're talking. It was quite intimidating. And when I first walked in for the Punkalopi one, the first thing I did was kind of look at the staff members like, oh, what do I do? And they're like, oh, just speak, which I know is obvious, but it just feels really awkward and a little sterile at first because the person you're trying to talk to is on a screen, but everyone else there is in person. So I kind of felt like I should talk to them first, but then the minute was going down. But yeah, we're talking about the weekend out of order now, but that's fine. For my Punkalopi meet and greet on Sunday, I was actually already quite tired from Friday and Saturday, but I went up to the mic and I was like, hi, it's really cool to meet you and you're really inspiring to me, definitely as someone who's a VTuber who's grown so much on YouTube. Obviously, I'm more on the red platform these days. Punkalopi and I actually had a few Twitter DMs back in the day about rigging, and she actually remembered me by username. She's like, oh, I love your model so much. It has the long flowy white hair. And that was really sweet of her to remember. The thing about Punkalopi is I actually wasn't sure if her meet and greet would be in person or not, because she did show up to her panel on Saturday in person with her Punkalopi cutout too, but it was quite interesting. Throughout the whole weekend of Offkai, it was kind of just that question of like, who would be there in person, who was calling in, and who was kind of doing both. I mentioned already that Cinder was there in cosplay, and Cinder and Numi actually did a panel together, I believe, both in person. I didn't actually see this play out myself, but Numi had a concert during Offkai, and apparently there were so many tech tech issues for it, with her trying to call in and do the concert from the hotel room, I presume, that she had to come down and sing in person. Out of the whole weekend, that was probably the biggest downfall of the convention, was the tech issues. It's very difficult, I would presume, to get all the VTubers tech set up and on time, and a lot of the panels were running late. I feel like if you were there specifically for a lot of panels and back-to-back ones, that would perhaps annoy you. On the other hand, I was very busy doing other things, such as spending money and just talking with people around me to be too bothered by it, and hopefully next year will be better. Rewinding a little bit to Friday, you can't talk about a convention without talking about the game room. The arcade and game room at Offkai was actually not inside the main building. It was kind of under a big tent by the outdoor pool. I feel like it was not the easiest thing to understand where it was. A lot of arrows kind of had to point us that way, and my friends and I only made it there after we admittedly quit a panel line. It was running very long and late. There were apparently a lot of tournaments over the weekend. Not really my thing, but a lot of people were there because that was their thing, and that is where I met a new friend named Nemo. Hi Nemo, we love you. Go ahead and check him out. He plays a lot of DDR and is just super, super kind. And between the arcade room, meeting new friends, the Lando panel, Friday kind of wrapped up for me. And myself and a few friends decided to try out Offkai's room parties. Now, I read about this before I flew out for Offkai, but just give it a read. Hang out and have a drink on our room party floor. Each room party features different themes and is hosted by attendees just like you. Come on by and make new friends. The party floor is located on the second floor, number 2 on the elevator. ID check required. Attendees must be 21 or above. I'm gonna cut to the chase. I had a fantastic time on Friday night. Specifically, I had a fantastic time in the Any Clover party room on Friday night. However, the existence of room parties at a convention, especially facilitated by attendees, I feel like is a very slippery slope. I was able to try Pecora's plum wine at the Any Clover party. It was delicious, and I hate to admit that I didn't know it existed beforehand, but now I get to say I ate it. It's kind of like how my coworker 2 years ago brought back kangaroo jerky from Australia, and I had a bite just to say that I've had that. The party itself was extremely fun. Shout out to Eric hooking us up with alcohols, and I met a lot of cool people there. But again, this is a VTuber convention. So the interesting thing about it is I feel like I have so many stories to tell, and yet none to tell at all to protect the identity of everyone there. There were a few different themed party rooms that we checked out throughout the night, but I do need to warn you, there were also other parties going on, and it was extremely hard to tell which ones were kind of planned to be open to the general con-going people and which were just kind of friends who happened to be on the second floor also welcoming you in. I felt really safe being with some friends that I trusted, but it's always a good idea to keep your wits about you, especially if you're wandering into a room that probably wasn't sanctioned in any way, which we did. And then we exited promptly. Again, the Any Clover room, best room. Thank you. Had a great time. Love y'all. Except for that one girl. There was one girl who stole my water bottle. That was the weirdest thing. She probably needed it. She was probably a little drunk, but I drank my water bottle and I put it down for 1 second and I grabbed a snack and then she just took it off the table and drank it and then put it between her legs, and I was like, okay, that's gone. At least it gave me a good laugh. In addition to general safety at conventions, and particularly when there's alcohol involved, Nemo informed me we may or may not have actually partied with the Cooksie Impersonator on Friday night. So Cooksie is a pretty well-known and respected VTuber clipper, and there was someone who attended Offkai with a Cooksie kind of sweater merch and was implying and explicitly saying that they were Cooksie. It was kind of wild to just open Twitter on Saturday and see actual Cooksie saying, hey, that's not me, there's an impersonator, please help. And Offkai did boot the person from the convention, which is good, but it definitely highlighted for the community the dangers that inherently come from a convention where faceless people come to meet each other by face for the first time. You can check out some other videos on that. I'm not an expert on it, but it's interesting and a good warning flag for us. That was Friday night. We took this picture later, but here's the picture. Next year, we're gonna take another picture with 5,000 more VTubers in this, right? Because I met way more VTubers in this, okay? But sometimes you forget the picture, and sometimes I have many more stories to tell that I can't tell you because of the people behind them. But that was Friday night. Saturday was my meet and greet with Professor Lando. Now, my Professor Lando meet and greet happened before my Punkalopi one, but I had already heard from friends about the 1-minute timer thing and the staff kind of being there. So imagine my shock when I'm in the Professor Lando line and then they let us in groups of 5, right? And in the room, it's only Professor Lando, his group of friends, and then the 5 fans waiting in line. There was no staff in the room. The staff didn't even open the door for us to get in the room. That was someone else in Professor Lando's crew. There was no timer either. Every interaction just seemed pretty genuine. And he kind of let every conversation wrap up before taking a photo with you. And it just seemed super genuine and inviting. I do understand that he was there in person, and so it would be quite difficult to do that sort of thing with a VTuber calling in, especially with the tiny bit of lag talking to a VTuber on a screen sometimes. But it was amazing. Here's a picture in that room with the bad lighting. I was so nervous up until it was my turn, but he was accepting gifts, right? So what I did was I wrote him a very heartfelt card and I gave him a pride badge because it's Pride Month and he's our bisexual king, of course. And I explained the pride badge to him. And I also work at an indie games company called Akupara Games. And my lovely marketing manager, hey buddy, love you, said it was cool if I gave Lando an Akupara catalog key. So I pointed out to Professor Lando the Akupara game key. I was like, this one has a really good gay game in it. And then I pointed out the next key I gave him, which was for Zoetti. And I was like, and this one has the hot furries. And I was just super glad that he and his friends laughed and were like, yes, that's the perfect game for him. You've seen the picture of us. I did ask him to pose like that. I did ask him if he did hugs. And I only did that because someone like 3 people before me asked for a hug by mistake by opening their arms open. So I got a Professor Lando hug. I can die happy. And one of his friends in the room mentioned that his community is a really great one after my interaction with him. So that made me very happy. I know I sound like a ridiculous fangirl because I am, but I think there's a healthy amount of idolization that can happen. I play it up on camera because it's funny. But to me, Offkai really encompassed me seeing and meeting creators that I look up to as real people too, that eat and breathe my air and laugh at jokes that I make or the same things that I hear. And it's very inspiring for me to keep making stuff. I also ran into MarinaVT in the merch room actually for her group VT Rainbow. And she actually remembered who I was. That blew my mind too. And I wasn't able to get into the line quick enough, I guess, to talk to Mieko Mino during her meet and greet. But Mieko is a new talent under Kawa and a lovely streamer friend also on YouTube. So I was snapping pictures of the meet and greet as I walked by and I sent it to her. That was really cute. Bing, aka Melted Ice Cubes, is also an amazing new friend I met at Offkai. She was in the Artist Alley making amazing things and is also actually a game dev, so I'm gonna check out her game soon. And honestly, the entire weekend was a mix of me being shocked when people recognize me by username in a very kind and validating way, and then me kind of being shocked looking at other people's usernames and being like, wow, I can't believe you actually have skin and you're breathing. I had an amazing time at Offkai Expo. I would highly recommend attending next year if you are able to. It should be safer in terms of your face showing next year, as it sounds like they're going to lock down a bit on the live streaming from the floor permissions next year if you're concerned about that. And of course, I encourage you as an attendee, if you're a VTuber or just a fan, please double check before you take a photo of or with anyone or before you post a photo too. VTubing is a medium. Not everyone does VTubing the same way, but because of the unique form of it, it's just the most respectful thing you can do to ask those things. It blows my mind how much I learned from panels and just from talking to people over the weekend and how inspired I am to keep making content. Lots of little stories that I can't tell you, but boy, have they lit a fire under my ass as I keep making content here. Thank you so much for watching this video about Offkai Expo. Again, my name is Faye Midway. I'm a clown VTuber. I sing now. I have a cover out. Oh my God. I make bad jokes and I play games with questionable skill. Please subscribe. I've been making lots of shorts recently, lots of live streams, lots of videos, all the good shit. And I'm gonna be grinding out until an Offkai next year. So I'll see you next time and have a lovely night. Bye.